This podcast is with my cousin Jacob Desoto. Jacob was on a road trip and stopped in the Bozeman area for a few days, and we had a great time together. In this podcast, we discuss growing up in Southern California, specifically Orange County. We discuss the challenges with addiction and drinking and marijuana. We also discuss having healthy lifestyle and living habits and how each person can develop their own way to find those habits. I hope you enjoy this podcast with Jacob Desoto. All right. So we start the podcast off with kind of just finding out about the person and how they grew up. And so tell us about yourself and tell us where you grew up and kind of what your childhood was like. And you can go into any kind of stories you want, but kind of start us at the beginning.
Okay. So my whole journey so far is what I call it.
Just start at the beginning. And
I always say
up as long as if we're not going to get it all right. You can't get it all in a short period of time.
Yeah, I could do it pretty good at a short period of time, I think, in my head. Okay, so
let's start with where were you born? Where are you from?
So I'm born and raised California, Fountain Valley, California. 34 years ago. So April 10th, 1990 at 12:10 a.m. is when I was born. Grew up in Huntington Beach, was city over. Grew up next to the water because my dad was a surfer, so I stayed close to the water. And I have a sister that's a year younger than me. Mother, father, they all live in. They moved to Oregon, so only one in California nowadays. So well, my sister as well. I forgot she's married and so forth. But so I grew up. Typical.
Were you actually born in Fountain Valley?
Yeah.
There's a hospital that you were born at? Okay.
Yeah, there's a Fountain Valley hospital. My parents actually lived when I was born, lived in a mobile home park.
In Fountain Valley?
In Fountain Valley.
Okay, so I didn't know that they were in Fountain Valley. Yeah. I just assumed Huntington Beach somewhere.
Yeah, so they lived in a mobile home, and that was kind of cheap living at the time, right? I made it affordable for them. Yeah, I think they were 24. My dad was 26. And then I grew up in Fountain Valley till I was about 5 or 6. I remember the Northridge earthquake happened that year. It was 1995.
So I remember that mobile home. If that's the same one. Yeah, I had been there a few times.
Yeah, it was. I remember exactly. I remember what it looked like until this day. And when we lived in another mobile home as well when I got later in my life, and it kind of reminded me of that, like growing up, kind of the same concept of like having the single carport, right, and pulling in and out, and all that stuff, playing and stuff like that, and then all the animals that kind of like lived there and so forth. We had 2 cats and a dog, and realistically, just same kind of concept that just kind of made full circle, I guess, in a way.
You're a Conrad?
I am not.
Okay, so you're from your mom's side.
Mom's side, yep. So what we say called the Bergener side.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so you're how do you tie in with Kyle's family?
I am. So my mother is the youngest of the 3. So it would have been Gayla, Dave, and then Lori.
Okay.
So my mom's sister.
Yeah, my mom's mom. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Is my So his aunt's my mom. Okay, that's what it is. Yeah.
I got you.
And my dad and mom, they both met in I think Huntington, Fountain Valley as well. I think, right, or Costa Mesa, maybe, wherever they grew up. I can't remember exactly what city it was.
What's that?
Gayla, or Lori, and Craig, my parents, and then they lived in Fountain Valley. Is that where they lived?
Who?
Your Gayla and Dave and all them. They raised.
Or was
it Costa Mesa?
No, they lived in Fountain Valley. I don't think my mom lived there very long, right? Because she was graduating high school.
Yeah.
So my mom had just graduated high school when the family moved down there. Oh. So she kind of just moved out at that point in time.
I'm trying to remember because we did the podcast with your mom. She's the oldest.
Yeah.
Okay. She's the oldest.
And your mom's the youngest.
Yep.
Okay. How far is the gap?
I don't know.
It's like
8 years, isn't it?
That's more than that. It's like.
So my mom's 62.
Okay.
We'll calculate that, whatever that is.
Okay, so it's like 7 or 8 years, I guess.
8 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember, and then Dave is, I think, 4 years difference.
Sure.
2. I don't know. I forget.
And you got a sister. Your sister's older, younger?
She's a year younger.
Okay.
She's a year younger.
So were you guys ever around each other much?
All the time.
Okay.
All the time. The
Yeah, I
family.
mean, we lived like an hour away from each other, but we spent like every holiday we all spent together.
Kyle's 3 years older than you.
I think almost 2.
2.5.
2.5. Yeah. Well, in 1990, 1989, 88,
87.
80. Yeah. So he's 3 years older than that. He's 3 years. April 10th is me. He's April 25th.
Mhm.
What
Yeah, I
memories
guess I
do you
am
have
too,
of Kyle from your childhood?
Huh?
What memories do you have of Kyle from your childhood?
I think Kyle.
Badass motherfucker.
Yeah. I was gonna say. They lived in Arcadia, which was Pasadena, sorry. But I always think of Arcadia, same
That's
exact
all right.
thing, but in the vicinity of that area. But I always thought they were like mountain men. They just grew and like climbed trees. Of growing up, I swear, like a badass. Like, because I lived next to the water, and I was like, oh, I have no idea what to do. And they're like, oh, let me pick up this lizard and just grab it. And I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. And I would just do it. It would just be. They would just climb. Yeah, it was just climbing trees. We'd go into this in this backyard. They have this. Well, they have like a little like creek, I guess, and it would dry out. But sometimes during this time of season, it would be kind of with a little water, full of water. We'd go down there and kind of catch tadpole or frogs and all that stuff. And I remember going into all that stuff and just seeing them. They always did badass stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. I was just a little bit younger.
Yeah.
I wanted to challenge myself, and so challenge myself as much as I could. Even though they seemed like they did a little bit more extremes than I did.
I didn't know if Kyle had any retribution since he was the youngest of 3 brothers on you.
I don't know. I don't think retribution wise. I think if anything, he probably took some things that he probably was a lot better at than probably Cole and Chase at the time, and that he probably voiced himself a little bit. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe not.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about you.
I just said I didn't know since you had older brothers if you would take anything out on your younger cousins since you're used to being the youngest of the brothers.
No, not really.
No, I don't think we ever really wrestled or tackled each other a lot. I don't know if we were those type of cousins, I guess, growing up.
Yeah, they weren't. Your brothers weren't rough on you, Kyle, were they?
Not really.
Yeah.
I think growing up we were really rough with each other. At least I didn't feel like it. I think if we were rough on each other, it'd be like, you go do this, and then, oh no, you do this, and then we might have challenged each other on that end. But
yeah, but no, we weren't like, we all got along pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, our parents wouldn't have allowed us to like.
I don't mean
be
like
too.
You guys
hard.
are beating each other, but just like being brothers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's definitely some of that.
Well, to go into it, we want to talk about some more stories about me, I guess. It's like, though, the one thing is interesting growing up in my lifestyle growing up is I would have had an older brother, but he passed away when we were younger.
Okay.
So my parents lost a child when they're young.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was born right when that child was lost.
Okay.
And so I would have been the older brother or middle brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would have probably had a little bit more like someone to challenge a little bit and rambunctious in some way. I had a sister, so I didn't really get to fight. I really didn't get to like mess with her as much. Just because if I did, my parents would probably be like, no, you can't don't touch your sister and stuff like that. So it was kind of interesting is like knowing that it was having cousins and stuff like that was a way of kind of like having like an older brother in some way, because I didn't have an older brother growing up and stuff like that. So it helps with that kind of stuff.
It's interesting because I had like very similar situation. I had an older brother. He was 3 when he passed away, but it was that fall, and then I was born the following summer. So kind of the exact same thing. Like I would have been the middle, and then I ended up being the oldest.
Yeah.
The oldest son. I have an older sister, but like similar, like sort of. I always think about that. Like, man, how much different would that have been?
I think about it all the time.
Yeah,
it's
weird.
It's very interesting. And I think the one thing that I would want to go into like deep in depth when you kind of look at it is like, I think the biggest thing is our parents kind of hold a lot of that. Like they don't say it, but they hold it.
Yeah.
It's in it, and it kind of rubs off on you as a child, even though you might not think it does, but it does. It does kind of bring that a little bit of the like, oh man, we got to take care of the child, take care of the kids. We don't want that to happen. If those things growing up was a little bit more sheltered, I would say, to an extent, and then I think you kind of go on your own after that.
But you can't blame them, right? If you lose a child, you're going to treat the other children differently.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're human.
Yeah, no, I know. But I'm saying they treat themselves differently is what I'm saying. And that treats the the child differently as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is what it comes down to.
My aunt said to me when I was a kid, and I was, I guess I probably never, I mean, maybe I unconsciously thought about it, but she goes, I always felt like there was so much pressure on you because now you were the son now after the other son. And I guess unconsciously there probably was. I don't think I thought about it as much consciously until she said it to me. And now I'm like, oh, now I think about it all the time.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
it is. It is. I think there was a lot of pressure on him. Even thinking about my sister as she just, I just dropped out of college when I was like younger or whatnot. And I just worked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did construction for about 2 years for a little bit. And then I did, coffee, and I've been in coffee for forever.
Okay.
And
Good
so
resource.
Yeah. And so I've been in coffee for like 16, 17 years now. And just because I've been in the customer service or retail side of things. But the point was, my sister has she's a one class from getting her master's degree, and she was the one that like got everything. And I'm always like, man, I want to do that, you know? And then I'm like back at it at 34, and I'm like, I'm going to school. I want to get my bachelor's, and then wherever that goes, just to kind of say, hey, I did it.
Yeah, good for you, man.
Yeah, but but the point is, it's like, I always say that pressure was a little bit much too, because I always think about it. You look at like your friends, at least the group of friends that I grew up with, they all went somewhere kind of like not prestigious, but somewhere it was UC or big schools or whatnot. And I was just like, I'm staying here because I just can't afford it. That was my thing. It's like I didn't want to put pressure on my parents, they didn't put pressure on me. And then lo and behold, I wish I did put more pressure on me, because it probably would have made me a little bit different, a little bit stronger than I am today. But who knows? Can't look at the past, so you gotta look at the present, and stuff like that.
There's so much more logic though in going to school when you're 34 and you know what you want to do.
Oh, 100%.
Who knows what they want to do when they're 19?
Mm-hmm. Who knows what they want to do when they're 37?
Precisely.
Yeah. So take us back to like, what do you remember growing up? Like what kinds of things did you do? Just give us.
You were on the water a lot, right?
I say I'm on the water a lot. I mean, I was on the water a lot because my father was on the water a lot. So it would just be in transit. I'd kind of in transit property is what I say, is like I went with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as they got older, and when I mean by older for me, it was like 11 or 12. I think a lot of times I grew up, or maybe even all of us grew up with like internet just started coming out, right? And so I started like in PC games and started playing video games a lot. I remember like N64 came out.
I was
going to
say,
that.
What games? What were your games?
And so when I was in freaking 2004, this game World of Warcraft came out, and I was hooked. I was literally fucking hooked since that day.
Was that 2004?
That was my brother too.
Yeah, like literally hooked. And I still am to this day. I'm not gonna lie to you, okay? Like I do play it. I do play it not as much, but I do play it. Like it is a stress relief for me. I don't know why, and I think it's because it's such a hereditary or such a habit forming thing that now I'm so used to it. That's what just like makes me reset. Someone else might say like, oh man, I need to go on a run. I go on runs, but like I need to do that maybe like at least once a week, just to have some time to get away.
It's
and
probably
escape.
meditative. Like get your mind off of regular life.
It does. It takes me away from a little bit. And that's the thing, is like that can be addicting though. You see people outside of it, and there's people I see that I play with and stuff like that, and they just play all day still, and they're in their 30s. I'm like, how do you have funding for that? Like who's paying for this? Like,
what do you mean? Why it costs money?
No, I go
time.
Okay, time.
They
got to work, right? They live at home with their parents. And
I just didn't know if like I was like, what do you mean it costs money?
It does.
I get what you're saying.
It does cost a monthly subscription, $14.99 a month. Okay. But the thing is, on top of it, you could pay for that subscription nowadays by just playing the game, because you can use that in the currency in the game to buy a token to have another 30 days to play it. There's a way of keeping yourself addicted to it, or a way to keep yourself immersed is what I say.
Okay.
Immersed too long.
I could ask my brother when the last time he's played that, because that's all he's 5 years. He'll be 30 this year. He's 95. No, I think he'll be 29 this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, he used to play a lot.
Yeah.
He was just like, yeah. It was when we got our first home computer, and that was.
Was he a little weird? Saying. I always go, because I'm always like, man, I must have come off a little bit weird sometimes. I wonder to people, like, when I bring this up, because I'm always like, I don't know. I play video games. That's my hobby. I like that. And then we were like, try telling that to a date, by the way, and see what happens. It doesn't really go out like, oh, this person probably no, I can't talk or anything. I'm like, no, I can. I can do a lot of things. It's just once you bring that up, people are like, oh, nope. It's kind of a negative connotation to it, I guess.
I mean,
but that's anyways, childhood growing up. But childhood stuff, let's go back to that. Childhood, what's things I remember? Fuck, dude, I remember skateboarding everywhere. I used to bike everywhere around the neighborhood. I was pretty rambunctious until probably the age of, I don't know, 11 or 12. There was times where we would, growing up with the neighborhood friends, I remember all their names. It was Nick, Eric, Brad. I could say their last names too, but I'm not going to on the podcast or confidentiality. But all of them, Bobby, Nick, Ryan, all these guys used to hang out. And then, of course, everyone moves away over time as course goes on. But we used to grow up and we used to play airsoft at each other's houses in the backyard. Airsoft was kind of big during the time. We used to, a lot of houses that were in the neighborhood that were kind of up for sale and no one lived in them. We kind of broke into them and we kind of go in and play airsoft in there too. We did do a little bit of rambunctious stuff.
Do you partake in any of this, Kyle?
No.
And
but that would have been cool. I don't know why you didn't invite me to do that.
I know, that would have been fun.
Airsoft's painful too.
It is.
Sting.
Yeah.
I mean, I played paintball a lot when I was younger. So
yeah, so going in that, I did do paintball as well. We did go around the neighborhood, kind of paintball and some stuff once in a while. And we used to live in this. The best way to look at it is just think of like a suburb area that's just a square box, and then we just all lived on different corners, and all of us kind of just met up, at a certain time after school. We just hang out and just go bike anywhere around the city because I lived in the city of Huntington Beach, and so during that time it was you can go to the park, we could go play soccer, we'd go to friends' houses, we just hang out and just bike all day just because we just didn't want to be at home. And then we just knew that we had to be home at 9 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock. You just knew, and then just rinse and repeat is what it was pretty much. And so growing up and then doing that, it was, it was good times because you think about it nowadays, you're like, man, me doing that nowadays, it's so much different. It's all by yourself. If you want to go on a bike ride, you're going by yourself in a way. Yeah. At least for me, it'd be like if I'm going on a bike ride, I'm going by myself. I'm not like I'm asking someone because everyone's lives are differently. Or everyone has their own responsibilities outside of that. But
sorry, give me a second.
You good?
But
I don't know, like where you live now, but like that's one thing that is kind of cool about Bozeman. There's so many people, like roughly our age, that would like go on a bike ride with you.
Yeah,
there's so many just like young, active people that want to go do stuff, and there's so many groups to do.
That's good.
All that kind of stuff.
What's interesting is I say that stuff because like I think when you get so caught up in nowadays when you get so caught up in your work life, you think you just don't have time for it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I definitely have time for it. I just don't. I think the socialization of like, as you go and like these people are like fucking weird,
Yeah.
Because most of the time they don't really go out much. At least what I found out, and at least for me, a lot of times it's, the lifestyle that I live and the thing that I live about my life that nowadays is like, dude, I don't go out and drink. I don't do like anything. And like, I'm a straight edge guy that like, it's hard to go like, oh, let's go out and do this and have like, because they want to go have beers or go hang out and talk. And I'm like, dude, I can do that. But like, do I want to do that? Not really. That's the thing is where like, I kind of get that little bit of disconnect from like the normal society things, I guess, in a way.
I hear you with the drinking because I rarely ever drink. Like, I drank for like the first time last year in like almost 3 years.
Nice.
And it's weird when you go out, like if you're just not drinking, it's just like sitting in a bar, drinking water.
Yeah.
Like, there's that weird disconnect between the 90% of civilization that drinks.
There definitely is for sure. But what's interesting about it is, I wouldn't change it because like in the same time, the positives of it, you save a lot of money. Right? I'm thinking about financially, you save a lot of money, right? And the other thing is, when you exercise, you take care of yourself, right? You probably look a lot better physique wise. I'm just saying, endurance and all that stuff. And then another thing is, we were talking about this earlier about pastime, right? Like you're passing time, right? And that drinking is passing time. Like, but what happens if you could fill that time with something that's a little bit more fulfilling or meaningful to yourself, right? if it's going on a run, if it's going on a bike ride, or for me, I always say for me, it's like playing a round of, or playing like 30 minutes of video games real quick. Even though someone might see it as a different negative kind of thing towards it, that's something that I see that's positive towards my side. So, anyways, that's why I say that. But
how long have you not drank for?
Since I was 25.
Okay,
so almost 10 years. Yeah,
Cold turkey?
cold turkey. Yeah,
Like you haven't had like a beer?
I haven't had a sip of it.
I didn't know that. I knew you generally didn't drink. I didn't know.
Yeah, it just stopped.
Why?
Stopped because when I was, if we want to go back to the childhood or growing up,
Yeah,
I was like I said, I was kind of a menace. I didn't really fit in. I didn't feel like I fit in, if that makes sense. And so I always felt
like that today.
like I just felt like I was a little bit more disconnected or not disconnected. I just didn't really feel like I like got along with a lot of people. And I think that stems from a little bit of kind of like, you look at like, I don't know, or you look at generational mental health and stuff like that. And you think about my grandfather and then my relatives and then my father as well. They're very good at like, they're kind of depressed kind of people. And like, I'm like, so am I. So I'm like, if I add that stuff into it, I got a little bit worse. I got a little bit different. And what I mean by different is like a lot more talkative, like ego is high, which is true. When you drink, right, it lowers your inhibitions, right? So you kind of feel a little bit more value of yourself. And so I just, in my head, I was like, I see my dad's side, and my dad's side has two of my uncles are alcoholics, and they're one of them is not a functioning. He's just been in and out of jail, and the other one's a functioning alcoholic. And you see that stuff. And then you saw my grandfather as well, and you hear about it, because I didn't get to know him because he passed away when I was like 5 years old, so I didn't really get to know him and grow up with him as much.
Yep.
He had he used to have a drink every day, and so in my head, those are things that are kind of like habits that you create, right? And so for me, if I stuck to that, I just thought to myself, if I stick to this, I'm going to be like that. It's going to be a habit that I'm going to have to keep doing, and it's going to be something I have to have. And then that's where my mind kind of just goes. And so that's why it just brought a lot of negativity. And on top of that, just anxiety, depression, all that stuff. Like those things affect me. And so like realistically, it's like, and what I say is nowadays I'm noticing I'm a hypersensitive person. So like if I have that stuff, it just changes it. It makes me a little more maybe angry, or a little bit more like too cocky, and it's just like not things. And then it goes, and then it brings that negative towards it. So I just was like, I can't do this. I just can't. If I stick to it, I'm gonna do something I just don't want to. I'm gonna regret, or something I'm probably gonna be.
So that's drinking specifically.
Yes, drinking, and I think anything that kind of just inhibits myself, I think, a little bit.
Okay.
And mind altering. How about that? Is that better? Is that a better term? I would say mind altering, right?
Okay.
Because I did when I did drink and I did other stuff. I did do other stuff. I think the biggest thing that I did was like I did psilocybin a couple times, which is just mushrooms. I did Molly. I did ecstasy as well. I tried it, but I never stuck to it. I never did anything that was a little bit harder. But that was pretty hard stuff. And the thing is, I did that because the groups and the people I hung around, that's what they would do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also kind of like the thing that we used to say, or I've learned, is when you live in Orange County, they kind of use it as like the orange curtain or whatever, the orange bubble or the bubble. And when you live there, everyone has a lot of money and stuff like that. So the people kind of use that stuff to escape a little bit and get away into having a little bit more fun and stuff like that, because they have resources to do that stuff. Is why I say that. So
that's cool that you had that awareness at 25. Just to
I took a little bit. I was you had to go to this. What did they sent me to? When I was going through my time, I was going through the struggles of mental health. Is what I was go to this thing called intensive outpatient, and they would send you 3 days a week, 8-hour days of just like talking in groups, talking about your life and stuff like that. And you had to go through this. It was kind of like a camp.
How long did that last?
That was 3. That was 6. It was 6 months. 6 months of that. I was working still. I was doing part-time work, working part-time, but I was still going to this all the time.
How did you? Okay, that's interesting. So, how did you like come to that? Like, because it's hard to get help, right? Yeah. And it's hard to like admit to yourself that you need help. Age. Right. That's what I mean. So like, how did that work out? Like, cause like, that's a great thing to have gone through, but I guess I'm looking at it as like a positive. I mean, not everybody has like resources like that, right?
No.
Nor do they have enough courage to like go through something like that. 6 months, 3 days a week. That's a fucking lot of work, man.
It is. It was a lot of work.
So how did that come about?
So that
I
came.
didn't know this, Tim.
Yeah. So
We
so
learn
what?
every time.
Yeah. So what came about that was when I turned when I was so I was smoking and drinking, do all that stuff, right?
Were you straight West Coasting?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because I remember. Oh, hey,
smoking, drinking, straight West Coasting.
And so what's funny about that is I was like,
it's like a West Coast rap hip hop thing.
Yeah, and so when I was a white boy, so I had a equalizer and 2 subs in the back of my car. You know what I mean? And I would just play hip hop all the time, and it would be like fucking just. It would go off.
Which car was this?
This was my Ford freestyle. It was like a Ford.
That's right.
It was like a Taurus nowadays. Is the Ford Taurus, but it was a freestyle back then. And so I put 2 15s back there and a little amp, and then and cooked it all up. And then I would go around, Orange County and stuff like that, and listen to the rap music and smoke weed, and then drink whenever people would invite me over or something like that. Right. So it would be like that, and I did that till I think I did it till almost out of high school. I think. Well, not actually high school, from 18 about 20. And then I stopped. And I remember I stopped and I had a panic attack. Like a really bad one. First time I never had a panic attack.
Better keep going.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that's what you could have decided, right? And so my parents are like, you need to get help. Like they knew I was smoking weed. They knew I was doing this stuff. And they were like, you're just, you're not doing anything. You're not going to school. You're just working.
You weren't
playing
going
video
to
games. I wasn't going to school. I was failing at school. I was failing at college.
So okay, yeah, I guess this is after college. Yeah.
So I was failing at college. I was taking classes. But I was not going to class.
So you weren't fucking taking classes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's all. I was just literally just playing video games. So I was playing World of Warcraft or other video games, right? So just smoking weed and then smoking cigarettes.
Do you think the weed was what induced the panic attack?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So as soon as I stopped, I had a panic attack. Never had one before.
Oh, wow.
And so as soon as I stopped, my parents said, "Hey, you know what? You're going to fucking therapy," and the therapy's like, "You're going to this." And
so your parents came up with the idea.
Yeah, because my dad had the best or the insurance right at the time, okay. And so we use his. You have till 26 right at the time to have insurance.
Did you tell them no? You're going to therapy.
You know what? No, I said I needed to because I think the one thing that I look at to this day that made me stop is I tell this even. I'll talk about some other stuff when we get further out. Is I've learned that when I looked at my parents, and it was mostly when I looked at my dad's face, you could see he was kind of disappointed, and he was good. He showed like one thing about when you know about the Desotos. If you look at old grandfather photos or my great grandfather, we had a certain look when you knew that they were like disappointed. It's just how it was, and I think it's also because we're Mexican, so it's like and so like the Mexican kind of thing is like when someone's disappointed, they don't say anything, they look at you. And then they'll say something, or they'll let you kind of just feel that, and then they'll say something, right?
I feel like that look and feeling could be more powerful than what they're going to say.
Oh yeah. So and then there was also the threat of like, if you keep doing this, we're just going to kick you out. Like you're going to have to go, find a place to live and stuff like that. And I think that was kind of like, shit. Like I need to figure my shit out, and so that's what I did. I stuck to it, and then.
So you were 20 at the time.
20, yeah, 20 years old, and I started doing that. And of course, don't get me wrong, the first time or when you do that, you go for a couple months, you're not following any orders. There's no obedience whatsoever. You're doing whatever the hell you want to do. And then finally, they were going to kick me out and say, hey, you know what? And then that kind of made me go, okay, I need to
so they're going to kick you out of therapy.
Yeah, they're going to kick me out because I was showing up still. You have to be, you can't. They do drug tests and all that stuff. You have to do all that stuff. And so they make sure that you're not doing any of that because when you're in these kind of programs as well, a lot of times what happens is they give you kind of, some sort of mental health drug, right? Or, something that's pharmaceutically proven to work, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have to take that stuff. And then the thing is you start taking it and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. And you can't be taking other things with that because you're ruining your neuroplasticity or you're not neurodivergent, your cognitive abilities are going to be inhibited. It's going to make it worse or it's going to make it better. Either or, it can make it too good, right? There's the things you have to have a balance. And then if you do that, you're going to put everything out of balance, and then you're going to go even crazier or something else. So I had to kind of stick to a very strict regimen or routine is what it was.
I didn't realize till like just recent years when I was much older how bad all those mind altering substances are for your brain while it's developing.
Yeah.
But I mean, what kid's gonna have like the intelligence and wisdom? Be like, yeah, I'm gonna let my brain properly develop, and then I'll try those when I turn 25.
Because they say when the brain develops is 24 nowadays is what they say for males, and then females is a little earlier.
When you said that 25, and I don't remember when we were talking to Bailey, we were talking about this. This has come up so many times with, I don't know if it's just on this podcast or in general, but people around like 24 or 25, there's like their life kind of takes this altered path because their brain, there's some sort of shift somewhere in your mid 20s.
Yeah.
At least that's a theme that I keep seeing.
Mine didn't change until I was about 28.
Yeah, so it kept going.
It could really be like different though. It just depends on like.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty mature for my age, but then I had a relapse, I would say, in maturity for a handful of years. I'm serious, and then I kind of came back, and then it was almost like I was too mature at a younger age, and so that I needed to kind of.
A relapse is a funny way to describe your maturity development.
Yeah. So I have.
You went back a little bit, just a little.
I went back a little bit, and I was like, "Yo, dude, this is fun."
Yeah.
Anyway, this podcast.
You miss it, is what it is,
podcast
right?
Is not about me.
No, I got it.
Okay, so at 20, you got some help, and then take us through 20 to 25 because you said you stopped drinking at 25.
Yeah, so stop drinking. So 20 to 20, past 25. We want us to do
20 to 25.
20, 25. So
unless
20.
You got anything else good that led up to 22.
That's right.
Dude, nothing. I mean, the only thing I can think of doing in high school
is like, dude, I played a lot of World War.
Oh no! In high school, the one thing you want to know it set me off to like start smoking weed and drinking. Though this is the one thing I think about it. Right?
Marina High School.
I was in love. Fell in love freshman year. Her name was Alicia Goff.
Leave it to a woman.
Yeah, all right.
You got any pictures, dude?
I don't. And I don't know what she does nowadays, but the thing is, I would love to find out. No, I'm just kidding. No, the point is, I remember I fell in love freshman year, right? It was like you fall in love with someone, your life's going well, the stuff, right? You're young. You say you're going to be with them, right? You're going to marry them, all that stuff. And you have no idea what that life's like.
And Thanksgiving hasn't even showed up yet.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, right? That's fun.
It's been like
3 months.
Like, not even.
Yeah, whatever, dude. It was probably something like that. But the point was
3 days.
Well, what's interesting is that now you look back at my hormones probably all over the place, dude. As a young guy just like looking for anything. But hey, a little story about that though is I fell in love with this person. I didn't actually consummate or like have sex until 18. So I dated her for 4 years.
Same girl.
Same girl. Didn't do anything until I was 18. And so it was interesting to me as it was
really
like,
is love.
Huh? I'm about to say,
I don't know, man. I was like, how the fuck did I not do that? Because like everyone else was like, just like going around, just seeing whoever and all that stuff. And I was like, I'm just gonna stick with this one person. And then high school, our prom comes around, and then prom, she dumps me the day before prom, and she goes with her best friend. And then so I go to prom still. I get her a corset. We're still going with each other. This is
after you got down with her?
Yes, it was after. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was after.
Making sure, man.
Yeah, but then
it's been 4 years.
Yeah,
you gotta get something.
And then she went on to someone else, and and his name was Alan. Anytime I hear the name Alan, I'm like, damn, is he gonna be an asshole? No, I'm just kidding. And prom came along. It was at the Long Beach Aquarium, and I remember he was there, and he went with someone else, and then her best friend went with someone else. So instead, we switched. I took her best friend, and then she took her best friend. And then it was the most miserable thing I've ever done in my life, dude. They were like kissing and stuff like that. And like the rooms or like the walkways of like where the aquarium was, I kept looking over like jealous, right? And I'm a young kid. And I'm like in my head, I'm like, what am I doing with myself? Now I look back and I'm like, man, why did I do that? Why did I just let it go?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because you were all caught up.
It was all caught up. And so, so I dated her all the whole time, and then and then after that, it was like free game, and then I had so much fun after that. I just dated people all the time. I didn't really. But the thing about me is what I've learned, dude, is when you start dating, dude, the one thing is like, I'm like the guy that fucking just automatically falls in love with someone. I gotta fit. It's like, I don't know what it is about me. And I'm like, you gotta just like let it go, you know, because usually dating is never. Nowadays, dating is way different than it was probably when I was 19 or 20 years old. But that's besides the fact. But so anyways, 2021.
So you were depressed.
For sure.
So this is what set off.
Yeah.
Like, drinking.
Sorry. Yeah.
And
That's
smoking.
why. Yeah. So that's what exactly what set me off.
Yeah. You
much.
wanted to distract yourself.
Yeah. From all that.
Or numb the pain or whatever.
Yeah.
That's very understandable, though.
Yeah, it makes
that's a
complete
long
sense.
time.
I mean, think about I think so many people do that.
Yeah, but
Making out with your girl after 40 years.
Tim's like gonna kick, dude. Freaking 20 years later, Tim's gonna kick my
I do honestly. I think
I'm gonna find you, Alan, if you're watching.
I think. What's funny is I think I saw him. I saw him one time, like 5-10 years later or whatever.
The bird or what?
No, and I think he was a little chubby and stuff like that. So I'm like, you know what?
He's playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah, probably, dude. Who knows? He's probably loving it right now. Who knows? Or maybe he's married, dude. I don't know, dude. I don't give a dude, at all.
Yeah, but if you think about that, right? Like
It's fun. It's really funny to laugh about those things now, but when it happens,
bro. There was another story, a really good one. Okay, we're at this golf course.
Keep going.
Yeah, this is golf course. And we're in the parking lot. We're about to play. We used to do this thing called icing where you get like ice block and you go down a hill with it.
Yeah.
And it's just like a grassy hill.
You go get like an ice block.
Okay.
And you sit on it and you use it like a sled and you go down a hill at a golf course.
Okay.
Yeah, usually.
And it's like sledding.
Yeah. And it's
sick.
But there's no snow.
No, because the ice block is just super slick.
Yeah. So you get one or two of those and you race your friends, right? That's what we used to do at least. And then we had Metal Art Golf Course, and this golf course had like the biggest hill. It was like probably a half a mile long or something like that. So we'd always do that. And so she was, I guess, I texted my girlfriend at the time, right? And I was like, she's like, hey, I'm going to bed, da da da. And then I see her at the golf course, but she's getting in a car with some other guy, but she's with her best friend, and they're in like a van or whatnot, and we're in the corner, like with my friends in our car. We were just kind of hanging out there. We weren't smoking or drinking. We were just hanging out. And I see her get in the car, and I text her. I'm like, hey, what are you up to? Like kind of like fishing it out a little bit.
You knew that, yeah.
And, well, because I knew, right? And I was fishing out to see what she would say, and she was like, oh, and then I called her, and she's like, oh yeah, we're with this guy, and this guy, I forgot their names or whatever, and they were older too. They were older than about a year older than us, and they had this like, I always called it the rapist, man. Or a little scary looking. They're like bang bus, I guess, if you want to say something like that. Sorry, like a little bit like that. And I was like, dude, if they're doing shit in there, I'm gonna be fucking pissed. And lo and behold, she told me the truth. The point was of the story, but the one thing about it that is, I remember that was the first time I got so angry. And then after that, it got worse and worse after more and more time going on. I remember back at the time we had the Razor flip phone was what we had. used to have the Nokia pill or whatever. And then got the flip phone was the next upgrade. And I got so mad I fucking snapped that flip phone in half, dude. It was anger. And I remember after that my parents are like, what the fuck did you do? And I was like, I dropped it. Right? But I knew like I fucking broke it, right?
Yeah.
And they wouldn't got another one. But the point was, it was like I guess I had some anger there that like let out, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, seeing that shit just like pissed. I still remember this day. It still gives me a little angry to this day. I think about it. Like I saw that.
It's okay to get angry.
Yeah, no.
You're human.
This is freaking me out, bro. Because I've broken. I remember one specific like breaking a phone because of a girl, and I dated a girl in high school named Alicia.
Yeah. Oh, hey, there you go. Small.
Watch out, Alicia.
Yeah, watch out. Alicia names, huh? I guess it's just they're out there.
I think I dated her for 2 years. But it wasn't your breakup. Was
Did you? How'd you break the phone, if I may ask? Or why?
I think I just like slammed it down. I don't think it was her. I think it was a different girl. But I was just mad, and I was like, just to the ground.
I think nowadays we probably wouldn't do that to our phones because they're so expensive.
Yeah.
If anything, we just put our phone or maybe throw it across the counter or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe we don't even get that angry as much.
We just kind of toss it on the couch.
Yeah.
I don't take my anger out on like objects.
Oh, you do it. You go like a run or
What
something
do you
like
take
that.
it on?
I don't know. I guess I've come to do a pretty good job of controlling it, I guess. But
Yeah.
like, I guess maybe like visual anger, say visual, like like throwing something or punching something, or I guess I've never really done that.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, because I would be scared if I did that I would go like real crazy.
Oh, you
So
just like
you know what I mean? Like
we
No,
need to
I'm
get
scared, man.
yeah, we need to get you in like a what are they called?
Rehab?
No, the rooms where they like you break everything,
No, I'm good.
destroy
Oh,
rooms.
that'd be kind of fun.
Have you done that before?
No.
Yeah, people say that's fun, but some people say it's boring as hell. So I don't know. Like, I wonder if they're even angry at all. Okay. So what? 2025.
So okay, so from 2025, you kept drinking and smoking,
Yeah, I kept doing that.
even though the rehab kind of worked.
It kind of worked. It put it planted a seed. How
Okay,
about that? Is that better?
Yeah,
Planted a seed.
that makes a lot of sense because it's
It-
like you didn't stop. You just were like, oh, like
I had a little
there's
bit more
yeah.
understanding of like, okay, I can't be doing this. Oh, I can control it, right? There's this mental thing that goes in your head where it's like, oh, I can control it. Oh, I can do it. It's fine. I'm fine. And then you do it, and you're like, I'm doing exactly what I was just doing when I was 18 years old. Just go straight back into it. And so, what it comes down to is this is what I have as an addictive mind, just addiction. I love this is like I shows what it was probably with like video games and stuff like that. I just have this like a tendency to like fix on things and then beyond that, right? So
I think everybody has addictive tendencies, right? Like it doesn't really matter what it is. Some people are addicted to work.
That's very
right?
true.
And so, people are addicted to, watching sports. It can be anything,
That's very true.
right? So like it doesn't, but it's good that you recognize like there's a few things that you tend to really like.
Yeah. Well, those things I do, they stick to my life. That's why I like them, right? That's the thing. But I think the other things that are negative, right? Negative to me and decisions I made is just anything that's mind altering. So I think it'd be kind of like drinking.
So okay, so you quit drinking at 25, or you quit everything?
Quit everything.
Okay, so what? How
you?
did you get from? I'm this seed got planted to I'm not doing this stuff anymore.
So the one thing that this is where we're going to right now is going to meetings, right? Like anonymous meetings.
Okay.
I went to AA meetings.
But it wasn't anonymous. You're like, I'm Jacob Desoto.
Oh, it usually goes with I'm Jacob Desoto, and then it goes what I am right? Okay. And the thing about that is like I would just go to meetings, and then so meetings created more relationships, and so relationships that I was probably lacking, right, and friendships and stuff like that, which kind of helps you kind of solidify a little bit like, hey, you can do this, you can do this with doing all this stuff. And then also on top of that, this meetings also was created by 12 steps. So 12 steps, you have to do all 12 steps and then stick to that program. And so I've been doing that since, I'm in 25.
You're still doing it?
I'm still doing it. I go almost, when I'm not on vacation, I go about four times a week. 4 times. And
really?
Yeah, and they're all on three of them on Zoom, one's in person. So it's very, very, it works with my schedule.
Okay, so you're spending 4 hours a week?
4 hours a week, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do that.
I think you could correct me if I'm wrong, but that's like they have the best turnaround or like turnaround success rate.
Yes.
Is AA meetings, from what I understand.
Yes, any anonymous in any way, yes, they do, yeah.
Do you know much about Russell Brand?
Yeah.
Because I know he's spoke a lot about it.
The thing about that is like the one thing that's interesting about that is the one thing when it comes down to speaking about it is you can't really talk about it too much in like public domain and so forth, but he talks about it like it's nothing. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anything's been reprimanded for that. But the point is, it's like you have to think about that stuff because it's called it's Alcoholics Anonymous. So it's like an anonymity, right? It's like, I'm not going to tell you about anyone in the program and stuff like that, their names and what they're going through, because in the end of the day, you're just going there to speak. You're going there to kind of let stuff out. Because a meeting is just kind of where you figure out what's going on and talk about it. Because if you don't, then you're just everything's gonna build up again. You're gonna get isolated, all this stuff, and the next thing I'm going to be doing something that I don't want to be doing, going down another rabbit hole is what we call, or I call it a rabbit hole, but a chaotic place.
Is the group that you meet with people that are all specifically alcoholics, or like
it's all different?
It doesn't matter what
doesn't matter. The one specifically that I go to,
So you could be like, hey,
the one specifically
addicted to World Grind.
Yes, there is gaming anonymous. Yes, but I don't. But the thing is, the one I go to is marijuana anonymous, because my drug of choice, or the one thing that I loved, was marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I loved it. I freaking loved euphoria. I love the feeling of it. The one thing I think I look back to is I think about my father. My father does it habitually too, every day, and so I'm like, I don't want to be like my father. I want to be kind of like a guy that can really deal with things differently, and preserve that kind of like different generational change if I can. And so that's how I look at it, is why I say that stuff. Because I'm like, I could do that and, hide away and numb away some stuff. But I'm like, dude, I got to feel this stuff out. Like, this is something that I need to figure out and do it. Because if I don't, then I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to sweep it under.
You're avoiding it.
Huh?
It's avoidance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I think about. That's what I think about.
Yeah,
marijuana.
I mean, like,
that's what I think of marijuana as.
I was talking to somebody about this, last week. It was like, people don't realize it, right? Because they think that it's like normal, right? And it is normal, unfortunately, but it's like fucking television, right? Television is just a drug, and it's avoidance.
Yeah.
Like, when you watch too much television, right? Like, you're fucking wasting time. Like, who fucking cares about the weather across the country? What is the point of knowing the weather in another place that you don't know anybody, and you're not there?
That's very true,
right? And so then, like, you think about the news, you're like, you don't know anybody there, and you're not there, but you're watching like a news program about some place you've never been, you don't know anybody, and you're not there. I'm sorry, but why do you care about it? And so, like, it's all just like an avoidance, because you're like, well, it's something to do. It's passing the time.
Yeah.
The biggest, sorry, I think I interrupted you, but the biggest things that, like, I think, or at least I've noticed in society, that they're so normal that you just don't even like pay much mind, is alcohol.
Yeah.
And caffeine.
100%. Yeah.
Now I've, like, since last summer, I stopped drinking caffeine. I'll drink decaf coffee now, but it was brutal. But it's like, it is a mind altering drug. And yeah, it's like mostly positive, I think, what it does for people, but you just don't think about it because it's so normal. And same thing with drinking.
Yeah.
It's so embedded in our culture.
Yeah. I'm always curious on, like, if they, we have the 1920s prohibition, right? 1921, 22, and then it's ended, right? I think it was only 2 years free. I think, right?
I don't know.
I can't remember off my history, but I wonder if they had one nowadays, what would it do, right? Because I think about this,
people would fucking go nuts.
I know, that's what I was going to say. They would.
People can't sit still, and
But the one thing that's interesting is, I was speaking with someone about this, so they brought this up. I don't remember when we were younger, when we were first 21, right? Seltzers were kind of like, it's a little like, oh, hey man, you should be drinking a seltzer, right? Like a Smirnoff Ice. You should be drinking like something.
Oh, okay.
What I'm trying to go with is, nowadays it's so normalized. You know what I mean? Like back
White Claw.
White Claw, right? I'm just saying, like, remember back in the day, if you were drinking that at like 18, 19 years old, your friends would be like, man, what are you drinking? You're a fucking pussy, like, drink this stuff, you know what I mean? Or drink this, right? And then nowadays,
you mean like hard alcohol or beer?
or other stuff, right? And then if you drank, like, what were they called? I think, what were they called? Balls.
That was all like,
or like I forget what it was. It was BAWLS, I think, were those seltzers or something like that. I forgot.
I remember it was Mike's Hard was like the thing that was.
Yeah, because you'd be Smirnoff, right? You'd just be Smirnoff Ice, right? Mike's Hard too would be another one.
Well, I mean, we definitely grew up like in an age of binge drinking.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that was like a thing. It was like binge drinking hard. And then, like that, the stuff was like, there's also, like, when you're a kid, there's like, macho shit. It's like, oh, dude, don't drink Smirnoff Ice, bro. That's fucking gay.
Yeah.
Like, drink Coors Light.
Yeah, or
and
whatever.
like, dude,
Budweiser.
it's like you're so dumb. Like you're 18.
But the thing is, what we're talking about that is like how society has become more attuned to kind of sensitivity, right? So nowadays, if someone goes like, "Oh, you're drinking hard seltzer," it's never. Nowadays, it's like, "Oh yeah, whatever," you know.
It's no big deal.
It's no big deal. But
Well,
before it was different. It was like you got to make sure you don't drink this stuff. Like, or you know or whatever.
You're gonna look down upon.
Yeah. Your friends are gonna be like a little judgy.
Yeah. I mean, the younger generation for sure, I think, has a much healthier drinking habit. Like they drink a lot less, and they don't binge drink like we did. Now they have other bad habits
like
that
zone out on Instagram and TikTok for the rest.
Yeah, like they have other bad habits, but I'm saying like particularly.
What would be those other bad habits?
The younger generation.
Yeah. I've really never thought about it. Like, what is that?
I would say they probably, some of them are on social media like way more than
It's a bad habit. Gotcha.
So that's, and then I think I shouldn't say bad habit. Like, what would be a bad?
I don't know what these kids are up to these days.
Yeah.
Well, I think about like
I wouldn't say
vaping.
necessarily bad. Yeah, vaping.
I mean, what's the new thing nowadays?
Well,
chew.
Maybe they're smoking more weed. I don't know, because like now that weed's legal in a lot of places, it's like before it was hard to get weed, right? Or I shouldn't say it was hard. You had to try.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, and you would get in trouble for it. It was against the law, right?
Yeah, federal.
So like, yeah, there's people that were smoking a lot of weed, like you were, right?
Yeah.
But then I'd say like generally, people maybe are smoking more, and maybe that's everybody. Maybe it's not just the younger generation.
I thought it was.
Okay, I got one, and I don't know this, but I've heard this from a really good source. They're on prescription drugs.
Damn.
And so like that, there's no way. Like, I'm a doctor, by the way. There's no way freaking prescription drugs are good for you like all the time, like from when you're a child all the way through your being an adult.
It's true.
There's exceptions to that, but like in general.
Well, I think anytime you go on any kind of prescription drug, they always hope that you're not. If it's a chronic thing, then yeah, you have to take it for the rest of your life. But if it was something that is temporary, they would hope that you'd only take it for 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah, but I think people get dependent on it.
Yeah.
Right, and then they rely on it, or the drug masks something else, and then you don't develop that skill, right?
Yeah.
And because you're altered, right? I don't care what it is, like whether it's, you could be high, you could be drunk, you could be on cocaine, right? Well, you're just on a different chemical.
Yeah.
And so you're altered, and so you're giving up something to be on that drug.
That's very true.
There's for sure a trade-off.
It's very true.
Yeah. There's two things I want to ask you, because you said you smoke. So do you not use any nicotine now either?
I don't.
How long have you not used nicotine?
Oh man, shit! It's been 6 years, maybe.
Because I've gone like back and forth with that.
I think about it all the time. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I smell a cigarette, I'm like, man, I would love to fucking smoke a cigarette. I just my mouth salivates when I smell a cigarette. It's so crazy to me.
Yeah, that's not. Is that mine or that's you? I think it'll be like, I know the date. That's probably how bad it is. September. I think it'll be 2 years since I haven't had any Zyn, because Zyn was my last. Man, but even recently, I went back home where I grew up on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And it's like you hang out with the old friends that you used to hang out with when you did the same things you used to do.
Yeah.
And the nicotine cravings were 10x.
Interesting.
And then I come back here and it like slowly subsides.
Yeah.
But I like dip back into that kind of old personality and old place. And I'm like, man, I'm just like craving. I take a cigarette. I'll take some chew. I'll take some Zyn. Like
anything gives you a little anxiety. There.
Yeah. And then like a week later, I'm like, it's slowly subsided, but it's like nicotine's a battle.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing I think when we talk about like how alcohol is kind of like talked about. I think nicotine is kind of like something that's kind of brushed to the side, right? You don't really think about it too much because like it's everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere.
I know you were saying like before you completely stopped, you'd kind of lie to yourself and say like, oh, I can just do this. Mm-hmm. That's what my mind's done. Like, it's so tricky and clever that it will convince me like you could just You could have nicotine just once and it'll be fine. Like
Yeah.
I'll get so close. It'll get so close to like to this day.
Okay.
Like you'd be fine. You could have one Zin right now. Wouldn't do anything. It's like this is a once. You're a special occasion now. Like you just have a cigar.
Yeah.
And I'm like no. What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like It's like, but it's so clever that it almost will talk me into.
Yeah.
And it's very funny.
Yeah.
I would just get annoyed by the money I was spending on it and just being addicted to nicotine. So I'm like, man, you almost got me again for the sixth time.
Yeah, that's how addicting it is.
Something I've noticed recently, and it's probably taken me like 7 or 8 years slowly, right? Like you ever talked about like planting the seed, right? And it's like I plant a small seed every year, and like, or maybe that seed just like grows a little bit every year, and it's not a lot. It's like really small. But I keep noticing it more and more over the last 3 years. Is something that I've kind of paid attention to, but I paid attention this past week because I was in the airport. When you try to go to like a store, right, in the airport, or like any shopping kind of area, or like gas station, there is not a single thing in the store that's healthy. Like there's not a single thing in the store. There's literally the only thing that's like healthy are fucking nuts and water. And even like 9 out of the 10 nuts selection that are in there are like, have shit all over them, whether it's like sugar or, all kinds of stuff. Right. So it's like, I keep noticing that. And then I'm like, wow, like this is crazy that like, people are like, then you're talking about addiction, right? People are addicted to the food.
Yeah.
Right. I'm addicted to the food, right? Like, dude, if there's a pack of Oreos in front of me, I'm fucked. I'm done. Like I'm done. I'm eating half of that package.
Okay.
Like and so I mean, I'm not any better. I mean, I guess I have better discipline than most, but like it gets me too, And so like the worst thing is like, and you're in the airport, right? And you're starving, or you're on the road, like you're going to be on a road trip, right? And you stop in a gas station, you're like, damn, there's not a goddamn thing in here that I can eat. And so what do you eat? You eat junk. Or you don't eat at all, right?
I don't know, man. You know what I do?
Or you bring something, right?
Yeah. The thing is, like, what I think about nowadays is like when I travel and stuff like that, I think about, okay, if I'm leaving soon, I'll go to like fucking Sprouts or like Whole Foods or whatever, like those, whatever is like organic places around here that say they have like some really natural stuff, right? And the thing that I will get is maybe like, I don't know, mango strips or whatever.
Yeah.
Mango stuff.
That's a nice treat.
Yeah. Nuts, usually nuts sometimes if I can. Sometimes I'll just drink water. I mean, water, if you drink water, it helps, but then you get hungry, you do, and your body needs something. So beef jerky, kind of.
Beef jerky's a good one too. Yeah. Beef jerky and nuts.
Beef jerky. Even though it's high in sodium, right? I mean, I think about that shit.
Whatever.
Too,
I mean,
I think about the sodium level.
Those are the choices that
would
be like pretty good.
But you're absolutely right. I didn't think about it because I was walking. I was doing my hikes today in Yellowstone National Park, and I went to the gift shop after the hike or whatever that was at the top of the trail, and I went there and I'm like, my body wants sugar right now. I just see like people eating licorice or eating like this, and I'm like, oh, I get ice cream. I just reward myself, right? And I'm like,
reward myself. I'm at a national park.
Yeah, that's exactly. I thought about that. And I was like, don't do it. It's not worth your money, because they're going to charge you $9 for that ice cream, and you're like, what? Why would I do that? And so I got in my car
and left.
I drank some water and I left, and I never thought about it then. When then I was driving over, I was like, damn, I could really use a Dr. Pepper right now. And I'm like, damn, that sounds good. And I was like, nah,
I could use one.
Yeah. And so what I did when I got home, or when I got back, I said, I'll just make myself a protein shake, right? Protein, it's low in carbs, low in sugar content. My body's probably just asking for some carbs in some way, because sugar is just carbs. And so I just had that, and then I was good after that. And then so the point is, it's like, it's interesting because, like, yeah, dude, when you don't have sugar and you want to have sugar, your body will like ask for it. And if I had my phone on me, which I don't, I would show you. I have this paint. This graffiti artist did this one graffiti painting because I like graffiti painting artists and stuff like that. And I went to New York City and I went to this place called Beyond the Streets, and it was just like an exhibit of like all these John Pettis and stuff like that, where kind of like these famous artists and stuff like that, but they passed away because of alcohol or from heroin overdoses. Most of the guys that are in that. But the point was that they had this one painting. It was all the Kellogg's guys. So it was the Lucky Charms guy, the Frosted Flakes, Tony the Tiger, right? All that. And it was saying sugar, that other white stuff, because it's addicted to like cocaine.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that stuff? And I didn't think about that when you put in, it puts a perspective of like, wow, these people were kind of like, they knew some stuff that we weren't thinking about, like kind of away from society, right? Kind of disconnect from that. Of what we nowadays love, just sugar, like brown sugar, or processed sugar, I guess, because brown sugar is still considered semi-processed, but not fully processed, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy to look at cocaine and like frown upon it and say how bad it is, but like sugar's probably killed many more people and caused much more illness across the.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, before I forget, you were talking about, so you go to the meetings 4 times a week. I was just wondering how important, because I know you were talking earlier about not having friends to go ride bikes with and stuff, that sense of community. Do you think that's the biggest part? That's the most important part of?
Yes, I think the biggest part, I will say, to go back into that, to go into it, is commitment. The commitment of like, there's certain things you have to do for a meeting to get it ready, right? Or to have the meeting go perfectly, or not perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. It's all about progress, but to go to work, right? And so commitment is something that I fall on. So I have a commitment to everything, and that commitment could be, counting everyone in the room. It could be, writing certain scripts and stuff like out for the meeting and so forth.
You have a commitment in the meeting.
Yes,
you have
you
have a part to play.
Yes, a part to play.
Does everyone there have one?
No, you have to ask for it, and you have to have some time sober.
Okay.
So that makes you want, like, you're like, I have to go because I have a responsibility.
Yes. Yeah. I put that. That's one thing that it's the acronym that they use is HOW. It's honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. So is how you can keep yourself from, indulging in your addiction. Being honest with yourself, being honest with everyone around you, open-mindedness with someone around, some others and yourself, and then willingness to take on yourself and willingness to have with others.
That's cool.
Make sense?
The reason I asked what it makes me think of is not long after moving here, because it's like 4 years ago this summer, I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and got like mildly to overly obsessed with it. And I've like gotten to know a lot of guys who train there. It's a tight community. And like, I mean, a couple of the guys have done the podcast and like talked about stuff they've gone through and how they found this sense of community. And it's definitely not as intentional in the sense for like why you're going there and what you're doing. But I think there's so many ways that it provides that sense of community and just commitment. We all kind of grow together. We're all striving to get better when we're there.
Yeah.
And it makes this brother or sisterhood. And it's, I just wonder like how important the sense of community is and how many people are lacking that might struggle with all these, like any addiction or just mental health, all the above.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing is, would you consider, let me ask a question to the board here, to the table, is like, do you think internet is community? In broad, do you think internet is community?
I think that's probably that like is contextual to like, I guess who you're asking. Like for me personally, I just prefer things to be in person. Like I'm like old school in that sense. I don't think I'd get the same feeling, but I think if it was with people that I see in person enough, I probably would. But for me, it feels so foreign. Like I feel removed from the people. Like I feel like I'm just sitting at a screen. I don't necessarily feel like I'm there with the people, but I don't know. I'd go back and forth on that. If it's somebody that I've known my whole life and they Skype me or Zoom me, I'm like, oh, it's so cool to see you, and I feel the connection. So I think it's like depends on the context.
Okay. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel similar. Like I was trying to think about like when have I felt connected to an internet community? I can't think of anything where I've felt connected via like an internet community. On a deep level, I'll say that, like, so like on a surface level, or not that deep. Yeah. Like, sure. I think there's there's definitely a connection there, but like, yeah, like on a call or like, I work on the damn internet. Right. So like, I feel connected to those people because we know each other and we're like working towards a common goal. And so, that interaction is, developed over time. And so it happens. It's there. I would say in person is quicker, faster. Like you can get deeper faster, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you can build that connection. Really, I think.
Yeah.
I think it, and so I don't know.
The only thing I was going to add to what I said, and go ahead if you still had something, is I feel like it can depend too, because you could get like stuck watching YouTube videos and following social media.
I was about to say, yeah.
And there's no community there. But if you're on a call with somebody and you're directly talking to somebody, I think that's much different. Kyle, I interrupted you, but I was just curious what your thought was on that.
Well, so the one thing I look back at is like, dude, our species, like as human beings, or just as human beings, is like we've always been community oriented, right? We came back from, if anything, if we were our cavemen, right, and it was all tribal, right? The only way to live was being in community, right? If you got annexed from that tribe or that clan or whatever you want to call it, or group, you wouldn't live. You'd probably die, because there's tons of things out there that would just kill you, right? Disease, animals, I don't know. Animals, I would say predators, right? Stuff of that sort, right? Weather, environment. Did I say environment already? Did I say that?
Yeah.
But the point is, I think about it as like, yeah, I think all of us need community. I think there was a time where like I had a lot more community when I was playing by World of Warcraft, yes. And then when that kind of ended, and I kind of was like, I need to kind of have more real life friends, like, and get a job or do that. You find relationship and community with the people that you work with, yes. But at the same time, there's got to be community outside of that as well. And I didn't really have that.
Yeah.
And so I think AA or just Anonymous in general kind of really put that community into shape or into form. And then it kind of makes me a little bit stronger to kind of go out and branch out to other communities and kind of be, open or vulnerable, because it's hard for people to be, at least for me, I think it's hard to be vulnerable sometimes. I think I'm a lot more honest nowadays, or a lot more vulnerable than I've ever been. But the point is, before it was like hard, because I think I'm thinking like it's got to be this certain way or this certain. The one thing I notice about me is like, as an individual, as I grow older, and from 25 into now 34, maybe, is like I've always had a very high standard and a high expectation, and that comes from myself. I've always been a high standard, high expectation for myself, and that's why I think a lot of times I didn't really do well in school, because I always have this high expectation, high standard, right? And then I thought that maybe subconsciously, now we talked about it, and I think about this, is being the oldest, I have high expectation, high standard. And so now I'm looking at myself, I'm like, fuck, dude, I have a lot of, even like the people I date, I'm like, they gotta be pretty like high expectation, high standard, right? They gotta be able to take care of themselves. They gotta be able to be pretty, pretty good looking, right? They gotta be able to work out, like things that I think about. And that's a lot to ask for someone, because like everyone's working on themselves, right? But the thing is, I have, and then from the friends that I want to have around me, high expectation, high standard, they got to be able to, ask me to go, and then you ask, like, this kind of like that vice versa kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's got to be kind of like a fairness there, I think, as well. And I think that is, I call it a character defect, because I think that's just not normal. You know what I mean? That's not something that like you could just expect that someone's going to be, because everyone's expectations are different. And how do you communicate those expectations? I think there's a difference between having high expectations and communicating expectations, right? If you don't communicate things like that, then how the people are going to know like what kind of thing, what you want? They can't. No one can read your mind. No one can read any of that stuff. So
yeah, it's like all unsaid, and you're just like,
yeah.
Then you're like passively expressing your disappointment or anger, and
Yeah.
then you're like some passive aggressive asshole. It's like,
Yes.
hey, dude, I don't know. Like, it's hard for men, like adult men, to be like open and honest and
Yeah.
express emotions.
Yeah. I think it's 100%. I just didn't think. I just the one thing I'm learning about myself is like as I'm getting into because of from anyway. So let's go back for 20 to 25. So I haven't done anything right. But the thing about that, if I want to talk about addiction again, by the way, is I did. So I haven't drinking. So, but I did smoke weed. I did relapse. This past when I was in the last relationship I was in.
Okay.
She was a smoker and drinker, and I thought, I could be in a relationship with someone like that. I thought I could do it.
That was your mind.
And that, yeah, right. And so I got in the relationship, and I fell in love, and then she smoked, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I can do it. Yeah, I'm good now. It was like, fuck, how long would it have been? It would have been 2 years. It would have been 2 years ago. So it was 2 years ago. It would have been 25, 32. So 7 years I would have been without anything. Well, I haven't drinking. I just smoked. And then I did it. I went straight back into what it was. It was like fucking 19 years old, dude. I was like every day. I was hiding it from her. I was hiding it from my parents. Yeah.
But you still weren't drinking.
I wasn't drinking.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know about drinking. I don't like it. Maybe, but marijuana I love. I mean, I think about it all the time. But or I don't think about it, but I do think like, man, it's just a drug. It's just a plan, what? But it's that mindset. But anyway, so I relapsed, and I was so angry at myself. I was so angry because it's just like this kind of accomplishment, right? It's not accomplishment, but it's kind of like this thing you hold against yourself, right? And I think it comes back to that high standard, high expectation. I know I want to make sure that I'm like, I'm checking myself, because if I don't, then I'll just fall in this rhythm.
Okay, so I want to dive into this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna grab a LaCroix. You guys want anything?
I'm good.
I'll take that one.
Yeah. Kyle, you good?
I'm good. So let's dive into this real quick. So, and it's okay if you say like you don't know,
Cool.
or you don't,
I probably do know,
or you don't understand, or whatever. You whatever. I'm just saying like you don't have to have an answer.
Okay.
So you love smoking weed?
Yes, I love being high.
Okay.
Love being high.
Okay. So
Euphoria, all that stuff.
Okay, so if you were to do edibles, anything like, then it's the high feeling that you love or an addiction
The numbing, yes.
Okay, got it.
Sorry. The numbing. So when you like numb out, right? I just think about it, it's like you numbing out, right? That's how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other questions?
And that's what you really want to avoid.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to feel. Does it say that? I don't know. That makes sense. I mean, I am a human. I feel all the time.
And so you don't think you really have control over? I could do it once a month, so it's not something you have control over.
I have no control over it.
Okay, so you because what I'm getting at is, let's just say you did it 12 times a year or 6 times a year, right? Which would be like healthy, right?
Would, yeah.
And be like, hey, I'm going to do this 6 times a year, 8
normal
times
person, I would say that would be normal.
And be like, cool, like I can. This is something that goes from like unhealthy to like, yeah, no, this is healthy. I could do this 6 times a year, right? Mm-hmm. And so what you're saying is you don't have that control to do that.
I don't.
Got it.
Don't.
That's like me and Oreos.
Yeah.
Like, you fucking put a box of Oreos in front of me, bro. If you did it every day, I'd crush a box every day.
That's interesting, because I wouldn't, if someone put Oreo box in front of me, I'd be like, nah, I'm good. You can have it.
Yeah, but let me get you high, dog.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you got me that, I'd be a different story, right? Right.
Let me get you some milk.
Yeah. Get some milk. Is that what it is? Yeah.
I can relate with.
You know who we can blame this on? Grandma.
Why?
Because of the French toast.
Oh yeah, the French toast. Here's just tons of sugar.
She was feeding us sugar as soon as we were born.
Yeah.
But I know that feeling you're talking about. Like, you got to learn to know yourself, and then you just know, like, this is an on or an off thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That's why sometimes I really envy people that like can live in that spot where they're just like, they do this like twice a year or like once a month.
What?
And
how do you do that?
To have the discipline to do that.
Talk about people with that with nicotine. They're like, yeah, I'll just have like chew like once a month, or if somebody else has it. And I'm like, oh, I'm like,
wouldn't it be cool to get to a place where you could do that?
Yeah, but I don't like. I know the journey of quitting so many times that it's like,
You're like, nah.
it's not in this lifetime. It's just like this is the. I just said that to people. Like I'm an all or nothing person in that sense. And like,
Yeah.
I have to like take that for what it is. Because nicotine's like.
What if you weren't an all or nothing person? And
Then I would. Then I'd, yeah, but just,
no, but I'm saying like, what if you decided that that's not how you work? I'm saying like, what if you played a mind trick on yourself and you got to a point where you beat it into your brain that you're like, no, I'm not an all or nothing person. I'm a once a month person.
Yeah, I don't know. Give my mind a few weeks and I'll think on that. Next thing you know, I'll be chewing zins every day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I get what you're saying, and I do believe that too. That like half of it is my own problem of like
you keep telling yourself that this is how you are.
This is who I am and how I am. But
because isn't that interesting, right? Like that's something that I'm starting to like kind of dive into. And I think it's probably, we all have it, right? It's like, oh, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, like that's true, right? It is true. It's true until it's not, right? And the only way it's not going to be true is if you change yourself.
Yeah.
And I guess you just have to you just have to fucking try to change yourself. And if you end up changing yourself, then you become a different person. And that's a fact. If you don't, well, you tried, right? But like, then you can go back to saying what you're saying. It's like, no, this is how I am. I've tried a bunch of times to change and I'm not going to change. And so I know myself and now I make these decisions that are the healthiest for me.
Yeah. I mean, cause I'll just say like the term I always use is that's a slippery slope. So it's like walking down a slippery slope every day and saying, I'm never going to slip. And like, it's just inevitable. And then like, oh my God, this is cool. I'm doing this once a week. And then it's like, I'll just do one a day. And then like a few months later, it's now I'm chewing a can of Zin a day or a can of Copenhagen a day.
Well, one of this thing I'm doing right now, and it's the first time I ever tried it this way. I'm doing this 90-day challenge. And I have 5 of 7 things on a list that I have to do. And so there's 7 things on a list. I have to do 5 of them every day. And so there's a little bit of wiggle room, right? And so that's like, there's like a 90-day challenge. And then there's like, there's a little bit more to that. I'm giving myself, I can eat kind of quote unquote unhealthy 2 meals a week. And I can have like 2 sweets a week.
Okay.
So I'm giving myself like, because I know myself, right? Like I know that like I would have a really hard time going 90 days without some of that like give and take, right? And so I'm putting myself on this like much improved path, but I'm still giving myself these like small satisfactions. And I feel like for me, that's like, at least for now, right now, it's like a sweet spot for me of like, I still get to have some of the things that I'm addicted to, like sweets and French fries. But I'm having a lot less. I would say I've cut back 50% on those things or maybe even more. Maybe it's like 70%. Because I think the all or nothing thing for me is like, it hasn't worked, right? And I'll like, and then it's like kind of stupid, right? Because in my mind, it's like, oh, didn't work. I'm on day 14. Like now I'm a failure. It's like, no. How about I did really good for those 14 days, and I just had a couple of quote unquote cheat meals or whatever, and I'm doing good, right? So instead of like failing on day 15, I'm like, I'm doing good. So I don't know. It's just like a different mindset. Like accidentally, I've lost freaking 7 pounds.
That's great.
And it's 7 pounds of fucking carbohydrates and sugar is exactly what it is. It's just like bullshit.
Yeah, I think what is it? I mean, what was the other things you had? Or was it you said 7? You only said 3 of them, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying like it's like there's 7 things on a list.
Gotcha.
Right. Within that list, there's like eating healthy and working out and stuff. But what I'm getting at is I have I can eat twice a month. I can eat so twice a month I can eat sweets, and then once a week I can eat carbohydrates and stuff like that.
Yeah, the one you know what's interesting?
Not carbohydrates, but
I'm gonna add on to this is a little bit is let's look at it this way. If we look at it we're not therapists, right? Or maybe we are. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not a therapist, but the point is the thing is it just we just kind of discovered two different people, right? There's someone that needs to take kind of steps to get to that, and there's someone that can just all or nothing. You know what I mean? I know if I have a cigarette, I'm probably I want to finish the pack of cigarettes, right? And that pack of cigarettes gonna go into I'm just gonna get another one because it's hard to break that nicotine. But then sugar as well, same exact thing, right? I can gradually get rid of that. For me, I love Dr. Pepper, so it took me 30 days, right? And then after 30 days, it's I can keep going a little bit longer because you're not thinking about it as much.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well, and your body's not craving it.
Yeah, as much, right? And so, but for me, I know that we'll talk about marijuana or alcohol. I you know what? See, there's the thing is, I might be able to have alcohol and not be able to get into it, but I think I would get into a habit of doing that, and I don't want to. If I've already had a habit before with that kind of stuff, it's hard to break.
Or alcohol will break you down. You become weaker in your decision making, and you'll start smoking weed.
Exactly. So that's why
drinking Dr. Pepper.
Oh, drinking Dr. Pepper, yeah.
Right. So it's funny.
Or Jack and Dr. Pepper and Coke, or cocaine, or not a Coke, whatever, Jack Daniels and Dr. Pepper, whatever that is.
Yeah, I'm 3.5 weeks in here of no alcohol, and it's so funny, man. The decisions I make, and they're small, they're relatively insignificant, but they're different. What am I going to order for dinner? If we go to a restaurant and I'm having a beer, I'm getting a fucking burger and fries, right?
Instantly.
If I'm not having a beer, I'm going to try to get a chicken salad. Right. So that choice alone, right, can be significant.
Yeah.
It's overall, it's kind of insignificant, but if it adds up, and then I'm oh, cool, I just had a burger and fries. Cool. How about some ice cream?
Yeah.
And then I'm oh, cool.
I'm gonna go talk to that bartender now.
Yeah.
Let me get another beer.
Yeah. And she's not, and she's taken, right, or something like that. She has no interest, but you think she has interest, right?
Yeah, that's a whole.
Yeah.
That's a whole other.
Because that's one thing I will say, that if we talked about that, oh man, we can go into detail about that for hours. But dude, the one thing about for me is that I feel I've struggled with, or I still struggle with, is dude, I've gotten a lot more confident, but talking to women is fucking hard sometimes. As for a male, just because nowadays, I think the biggest thing that scares me is I don't want them to think that I'm creepy or pervy or whatever, because there's that negative.
That's a thing. It's it's a stigma.
It's straight before, if I even ask hey, when I was on my trip this week, right, and traveling up to Bozeman, I went to some places to eat, and I would talk to some of the girls, the bartenders or whatnot, and and I'd make conversation with them, but they wouldn't really want to have conversation with me, I was hitting on them. And all I want to do is just talk to them. You know what I mean?
Just as a normal person, yeah.
Yeah, and then and I would ask them, because I'd be doing whatever, the New York Times word search or the whatever, or New York Times crossword puzzle, and just ask them questions because I didn't know the answer. Maybe they would have an answer, and they're why are they asking me this stuff? And it's I'm just trying to have a conversation with you. I think, yeah, you're good looking, but I'm not trying to ask for you to come over this, just have a conversation. It was even trying to talk to the person next to me. It was hard to have a conversation with them.
I think I can relate to that too. I think most girls though, generally are flattered to just be complimented, or somebody wants to talk to them. For the most part, I don't know, but it depends on the context and how you approach it. But I was thinking too, that was one thing I've really noticed in those I said I hadn't drank, and it was almost 3 years. Like dating when you're not drinking is so much different than dating when you
100%.
drink.
100%.
Because you can really get mixed signals when you start to get a buzz and you're on a date.
Yeah.
And you're horny.
Yeah, but it's just like that buzz hits you, and you're like, oh, am I into this girl? I was like, no, I'm like feeling a buzz from this beer. I'm like, don't even like this girl at all. Like, you can totally just that night. Like,
100%.
should I have another beer? Should I see what she's doing after this? Like, no, I have nothing in common with this girl. I'm going home. Like,
Yeah, well, so there's a little story. I was before I left this trip. The day before, there was this really attractive girl that came into my shop that I work at, or that I run or whatever, manage, and she was. I thought she was just gorgeous, and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna talk to her. And I was like, hey, how's it going? How's life? Stuff like that, just like small talk. And she came in the next day, and she was like, yeah, I'm thinking about going to the aquarium, right? And she was like, but I just don't know if I can afford it, stuff like that, just because I'm renting an Airbnb out here and stuff like that. And so she says that, and I was like, oh, that's cool, and just kind of end the conversation because I'm at work. When I'm at work, I'm like a different mindset. But this time around, I was like, she's sitting inside, she's reading a book. I went over and asked her, and I was like, hey. And I had a conversation with one of my regulars about like, hey, I don't know if I could do this. Like, this is hard, you start talking yourself down before you even have a conversation and stuff like that. I'm not drinking either. I'm not, I don't drink anyways. So I went over there and asked her, and I was like, hey, I haven't been to the aquarium in a little bit. Do you want to go? Like, I'll buy tickets and we'll go. And she looked at me and she was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, oh, that was cool. Like, it was after she said yes, I was like totally confident. But after I walked away, I got this like anxiety, like oh shit, like what I gotta say, what do I gotta like. I got like nervous, like even though I'm not even like talking to this person. I'm just trying to be myself, and I got super nervous. But as soon as we started hanging out, it kind of started to flow a little bit better because like you start to relate, like they're just a human being. They're just another person,
Did you take her there and be like, last time I was in this aquarium, Alicia was
no, I didn't. See, that's just funny, but that was in the back of my head, which was kind of funny about it. So maybe I
thought that was right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
That's hilarious.
yeah. So it was like the point was I was like, all right, so we did that, but point was I went and I talked I asked, and from now on it's like, why don't you just get better at that, just
you just gotta keep going.
Yeah, and
just
be natural.
It's one of those things that like I'm totally 1000% guilty of it, but even if you get rejected, you actually feel better.
I've done that.
Yeah, if you get rejected, you're like, I at least fucking tried, you know. And so the other thing I think you have to realize is like, and this is really hard to think about it in a moment, and it's not always true, And so, maybe I'm delusional, but like you have a lot to offer, right? And so, like you have to think of like, I have a lot to offer this person, right? And you're not even there yet, right? But that's what it could lead to, right? And so, like maybe you enjoy each other's company for an hour, right? There's no harm, no foul. It doesn't work out. That's fine, So I think as men, we put way too much weight in we're thinking too far down the road, right? And it's like, no, like I just need to see if I want to spend 30 minutes or an hour with this person. That's what you're asking for. It's like, hey, and maybe that's even a good way to approach it is like, hey, do you have 30 minutes? Right. And like, cause that's what you're really asking for the first day. Cause if you're going in completely blind, you don't know this person. I think 30 minutes, 45 minutes is like the right amount of time.
Yeah.
And you can find out if you want to spend more time with each other. If you don't, then you didn't waste your time, right? So there's plenty of really, really attractive women that I know in the first 45 minutes, it's not going to work. And I'm not interested. Now, I might be interested for right now, like
of course.
tonight.
Yeah.
But that's not, that's a conflict of interest there,
Of course.
So
remember how like as men we're growing up, or maybe as like our grandfathers or maybe before that, was like persistence is key. Why do we say that as for men? You know what I mean? Like keep persistent on that one person.
If
They'll come around. You know what I mean? Is that true though? Like I feel like it is.
It's got to be reciprocal, right? Their relationship has to be like two ways. Because if you just like the person and they don't like you, what? Like, don't be persistent. They don't like you. Move on.
I mean, you'll kind of know. Like there could, like, I don't know. I feel like there's a time, like there's a context when like you could be a little persistent, but if it's a one-way street, it's like, yeah,
okay.
I don't know. If you're just like trying and they're shooting you down, it's like, what am I doing? Like I'm gonna try to find someone that likes me. I think.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that there aren't times when persistence makes sense. I think persistence makes a lot of sense in the right context.
Yeah, it's true. I didn't think about that. I just you hear that and you're like, what this? But I think persistence is key. Is that what they mean by like they just mean keep asking people out? Like be persistent on it.
Yeah, I think not with
that one. But that's where my kind of thing is like, you just keep. What happens if you really like someone and they just don't like you? You just like hope that they like you, and you keep pushing yourself, right? And you're like, I'm gonna figure out a way, right? And they always do it in those funny rom-coms, right? Like some way, and you're like, why are they doing that? They just don't like you.
Yeah, that's another.
I mean, I think you eventually would just find someone that likes you, or like I don't know, they'll have a change of heart. But all right, so you're 25. So basically, you started in this you started with like some therapy, and then that ultimately leads to AA. Like when do you start AA? How old are you then?
22. So I was doing it when I was still kind of using and stuff like that. I would just do it, but it was, it would be something that I would go to. It was something I just needed. I knew I needed to go to. Now the first time I went to AA, it was so intimidating because you go in a room with there's got to be at least 40 people in this place, and 40 people in this room of all ages, 18 to 80 years old, and one side of the room is all the old timers, and the thing is they're intimidating. They might have tons of tattoos or been in and out of jail, whatever. They look scary. And then you have the other side of the corner is all the people that have just got out of rehab and they're out there, right? And then you have the other room where people are cordial and friendly and stuff like that. Welcome all the newcomers. And then you have an area of more old timers or mid timers is what we call them, right? And so I went in there and I just stuck it out. I just kind of was sitting in the middle. Didn't really care what people thought about me. You had to get that thinking out of your head because it can be very intimidating. Any kind of thing is intimidating because people are looking at you, right? And you're in a room with, these people look like they're going to kill you. They could kill you. That's what goes through my head. Now that they're not like that at all. I'm just saying you get to know them as time goes on. But the point was I sat through it, and then got a sponsor, and then that's what kind of kept me sober. It was kind of just talking with someone, kept checking in, keeping relationship and stuff like that with that person. And then I left AA, and then I went into MA, and then MA I've just been with that since, and I have been sponsor and stuff like that.
What's MA?
That's
Marijuana Anonymous.
Okay.
It's just another anonymous. There's tons of anonymouses out there. There's ones for anything.
All right.
Yeah. Drinking too much soda. Probably not. But
is there too many? Is there Oreos?
No, there probably can Oreo one if you ever want.
I'm not going, dude.
The food.
I'm not going to that.
There's
thing,
a food
dude.
one. There's a food one.
Oreos for life.
Oreos for life.
I think food's probably one of the hardest ones because you have to eat every day. It's not like you can just being an all or nothing guy.
But there's people that you see some people that can or you let's just say there's people that have addiction that can eat a whole plate, eat multiple plates, and you're probably you and I could probably just be like, all right, I'm done after half of this or full one, I'm done. But it's different mindsets.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it comes down to there's something you're dealing with. You needed to get figured out, and the thing is that helps me kind of figure that stuff out, or keeps me figuring it out. And
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So where are you at now? What's the road trip? What are you doing?
So I'm just every year I go on a road trip. is what I've decided. If I would love to travel across or go into a different country, I would, but it's pretty expensive. So I've been trying to hit pretty much all these national parks. Usually to Yosemite. 2 years ago, I did the coast of California all the way to Oregon to Washington, all the way to the border of Canada and back. Nice. It took me about 11 days. And so I did that. And then last year I went to the Grand Canyon. And then I went to Arizona because that's where my dad's side of the family is in Prescott. So I was in Arizona. And then this year I decided I wanted to do Half Dome, Yosemite, and I was like, why don't we just make it a little bit longer? And then so I added another 10 day or another 7 days, another week to it. And I was like, I kind of want to go to the Grand, or I actually didn't think about the Grand Tetons. Kyle here or was like, hey, go to Grand Tetons. And I was like, that's a good idea. And that sounds like a part of the list, right? It's a good list to have of like doing that. So I did that, stayed the night there. And that's when the thunderstorm actually hit here, is when it hit me there. So it got rained out. So I had to sleep in my car that night. It was awesome. The most comfortable thing I've ever had. That's a joke. I wish I had a better car. And then
better car for camping.
Yeah, for camping for sure. And then went to Yellowstone. I've always wanted to go to Yellowstone. And you always hear about it. There's what is that show called Yellowstone? Kevin Costner or whatever. I don't think it's anything like that. You know what I mean? But the point is, I loved going through it, and just like I didn't know how vast and how big, and
you only saw like a small part of it.
Yeah, I didn't know of like how much there is and what's going on in that what's going on environmentally or just in general in that whole area. They have active volcano, and you have active geysers, all that stuff, Old Faithful, right? You have tons of bison. You learn about the rich history of what happened with the railroads and with the Oregon Trail that kind of went through Yellowstone, how Yellowstone became a national park. Those are things that I love. I love history. So I think
you should go to the museum if you got time while you're here.
I did.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I went to it. And I did the whole tour with a volunteer guide talking about his name was Larry. He was a cool guy.
Shout out to Larry.
Shout out to Larry.
At the Museum of the Rockies.
Yeah. Actually, no, he was at the Gallatin.
He went to that one too.
Okay.
The Gallatin
History Museum.
He told me a lot about like how Bozeman was made.
Right on.
And then Museum of Rockies too does show you a lot of that stuff too. And then I came here and reached out to Kyle if I could stay and then both my cousins are out here because most of our family kind of has left California. I think the only ones that are still in California is me, my sister, and my aunt or my uncle, or my aunt as well.
Chase is in.
Chase is too, but Chase, I feel like if I don't think I would stay with him. He's always so busy. I feel like he's consistently moving. At least I think so. I don't know.
No, he's been in the same place for a long time.
Yeah, because he's rent control on that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's cheap.
It is pretty cheap.
Yeah, I'm jealous. If I moved there, it'd be freaking expensive probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't afford it. But the point is, I came out here.
Are you going to Glacier or no?
I don't know. They said no, it's not worth it.
No, it's worth it. I just,
It's a lot more driving too.
Yeah.
It's another 5 hours.
I would have done it. I would have. The thing is, if I go to Glacier, then I'm like, I gotta fucking go to Oregon and go see the parents, and I'm like, I don't want to drive to Oregon to see the parents.
Well, you gotta get back to work.
Yeah, if I had more time, I would. But yeah, so I came out here. It's nice here. I mean, right now it is. I've never been there. I've never been in the winter. I've never been.
It's beautiful. This is the most beautiful time of year to be here, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he loves the winter.
I like that. Yeah, I do love the winter, but this is.
You mean right now?
Yeah.
It is. It's green.
No, but yeah, I'm saying right now. So so beautiful.
And then it'll dry out, right? As soon as
it gets brown like August, September, and then it gets white.
And then it gets white.
And then it gets green again.
And then
circle of life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. See, the other thing is, I've never lived in a 4-season state. I've lived in California. I say it's 2, maybe not even that. Sometimes it feels like it's not even 2.
Huntington Beach is 1.
Yeah, it's not the same.
I guess like 1.5.
Yeah, so I would like to test myself on moving somewhere like that. Like if it doesn't have to be just Bozeman, just somewhere where it's like 4 seasons. I just want to
just come visit Kyle for like a week in the middle of winter and test yourself like that.
Yeah,
I would love to.
You can.
Yeah, to see what it's like because I would like to test myself because I'm like,
but you can only be in your board shorts and your flip flops.
that's fine. That's fine. It's not gonna be looking
Negative
25. That's fine, man. Frostbite before you even walk the front door, huh?
Shovel in your driveway.
Shovel in the driveway. All right, that's fine. Throwing salt on it or what?
No.
You don't do that?
No.
Why not? Isn't that what you
I mean, I probably should because my driveway's all messed up anyway, but no, I don't salt my stuff. It ruins the concrete.
Okay.
Like it like disintegrates the concrete.
What about like having heated
That would be sweet.
driveways?
That would be sweet.
Come on, Kyle.
Yeah.
Is that expensive? That's so expensive, isn't
It's
it?
expensive. Yeah. I mean, you're yeah.
Oh, cool.
But yeah.
No, and so I had just been traveling. I like hiking. So that's why I like
You're in a good place for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do love hiking. I didn't know how much I loved hiking until I did a couple of them, and then I just started sticking to it because the one thing when you hear about hiking when you do kind of big trails is mind over matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely in your mind. Like if you're not clear with your mind and you can't, there's no way you're gonna finish a long hike.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna turn around. And so I think that's a good challenge too, mentally. I think mentally and physically.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the two things that need to be challenged in some way. I feel like at all times, even if it's repetitive gym working out and stuff like that, and waking up and just going. That's the first thing is your mind telling you no, but you just do it and then you're done. You're like, I was actually worth it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It always is.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Sorry, I gotta.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Jacoby. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Jacob.
Jacoby. You can call me Jacoby.
Whatever.
You know, my favorite hero is Jacoby Jones. Do you know that?
Your favorite who?
Soccer player was Jacoby Jones.
Kobe Jones.
Kobe Jones.